For those of you who know me, I've been pretty obsessed with the Vanguard series and Star Citizen for pretty much the entire time I played this game. Since I started in 3.16, it's been my go-to patch to patch, well, up until Master Mode's drop, that is. This video is one that I've made a few times, and if you've paid attention to my channel history, you'd see I remake this video every couple months, whenever a major patch hits, just to see how it's going. Well, this is another one of them. As you can see, we're off to a really fantastic start on the video. Give me a moment here. Let me redo this. Starting at the rear, you can see the countermeasure dispensers, the missiles under each engine nacelle, the size 5 gun on a stick mount, and the 4 size 2s that are fixed and bespoke to the Vanguard series in the nose of a very sluggish ship, mind you. Starting at the rear, you have the 2 overlapping interact prompts for the front door and the rear door. You have the quantum drive and jump drive in the very tail of the ship. You have your storage locker. You can drag and drop stuff into that inventory. It actually works now. You got your gun rack with the weird prompt that wants you to interact with the rack itself before the button to open it. You got your bathroom for your hygiene gameplay, because CIG wants poop play, just ask Jared.
We're not going to put a when on this, but yeah. If by the time your time here is done and my time here is done, if we don't have poop gameplay, I'm going to be...
Yeah. There'll be one other director who will be very upset about that as well, if we don't have that.
This is the face of somebody who wants poop gameplay. And Chris, if you're there watching, I'm sorry.
Here's your beds for logging out, if the prompt works properly. And here's your useless engineering station. Alright, getting into the components for the rest of the ship. On both sides you have a power plant, a cooler, and a shield generator. Well, one power plant there, one shield gen, and a size 1 power plant. Because CIG in their infinite wisdom just stripped a size 2 power plant out of the Vanguard series and only gave a single size 1 back to the Sentinel to complement its size 2. Probably because of the EMP. And then your coolers. And just an FYI, by default that extra power plant is not equipped, so go ahead and go buy one in game. Now the saving grace is the EMP only takes 1 pip of power to activate. But even with that, unless you're running grade A military and want to be seen from half a galaxy away, you're not going to be able to max out all your power requirements. Now, with cannons on the pilot, you're at about 25 shots each for every cannon. With repeaters, you're still only at about 75 shots each, at most, assuming you have your power maxed and only a few repeaters equipped. Now let's go check out the fucking turret. Now, a few patches ago, and they're still updating them now, CIG buffed the turret capacitors and the turret regen rates of almost every single ship with a manual or remote turret. Hell, even the pilot weapons got buffed in quite a few cases, such as on the Cutlass series and the Scorpio series. But, for whatever reason, the Vanguard series did not get that buff. This is a Sentinel, so size 2 guns on the turret. Badgers. 75 shots cap. Well, let's get out of this and go pop into a Cutlass Steel and check what that says. Okay, so with maxed out power to weapons, You can see the capacitor still increasing and growing and getting pretty high there on just the 2 Panthers. You might be saying, alright, well, it's just 2 Panthers and 2 Mantis. Maybe that's what the issue is. Well, no, not quite. Let's go hop in the turret. Now, get in the ship, cycle, get on the turret, cycle on and off the weapons, and watch that capacitor climb. These are Panthers, 2 size 3s. On a converted hauler into a dropship. 225, almost 3 times what the Badgers on the Sentinel have for capacitor. Oh, let's check out the Scorpius now. As you can see, 56, 56. Cycle power to weapons, though. And it keeps on climbing, well past 75 shots per capacitor. And that's just for the pilot. 141 shots per Panther. It's enough to 1-mag a lot of medium-sized ships, just with the pilot weaponry. Now let's check the co-pilot and the /gunner seat. Well, as you can see, it's still climbing. And climbing. And climbing. So 141 shots per Panther for the pilot, 141 shots per Panther for the gunner. That's enough to melt a Herc. Now, you might be able to say, oh, it's a quality control issue. CIG just happened to miss the first heavy fighter that they put in the game when they buffed the capacitors of every other heavy fighter, dropship, and other hauler with a remote turret or a manned turret. But they have a history of neglecting the Vanguard series. It's pretty blatant. Okay, so let's talk weaponry on the Sentinel and the Vanguard series as a whole. So you have your size 5 mount. You can put size 4 guns or size 5 guns on there. You have your 2 turret guns, which are size 2. And your 4 size 2 pilot guns. The fixed, bespoke ones. Realistically, you have 2 different options. Maybe 3 if you really want to push it and forget about distortion damage in general. So, if you're going to go for the 3rd option, max damage. You're not worried about velocity because you're targeting large ships. Rent a bunch of GVSRs or buy them if you're in AC, rent them or buy them in PU. For the turret guns, go ahead and grab yourself some attrition size 2s, or if you have them, use your Ardors. That way you'll have 1 matching pit for the pilot, and the gunner will have maximum damage output that he could possibly get. If you want to target medium-sized ships, you can go with a size 5 Omninsky, and you can go with the MVSA cannons. Now, the MVSAs are modeled after the, I want to say the M4A cannons, but they have a higher velocity, 1400 meters if I remember correctly. Now, if you still want to do distortion damage, you can keep the HEVS repeaters, or you can go with EVSD cannons, which are distortion cannons. Now, your other option is to go full little guy ship killer, which in case you'd go Galderine and MVSAs, because the MVSAs have the higher velocity. As of right now, the ballistics aren't really worth fucking using or mentioning because the ammunition capacity is so fucking low. And every single ship still has a 50% flat damage reduction because CIG still hasn't implemented any sort of actual armor, just damage reductions. For missile loadout, you are locked on your racks. It used to be you could swap all the racks out for size 1 missiles, size 2, size 3s, or size 4s. Now you're locked to 8 size 2s and 4 size 3s. If you got a Harb, you have the size 5s internally as well. You can go with anything you want, but realistically, I mean, I feel like the Rattlers probably do you the most help as the size 2s and Thunderbolts for the size 3s. Amusingly enough, CIG did mention heavy fighters on their Invictus, post-Invictus Q&A for vehicles and the vehicle experience. Unfortunately, they didn't specify the Vanguard by name, and unfortunately, they didn't mention anything good about heavies. More along the lines of, well, actually, I'm just going to let you watch it for yourself.
What is the intended purpose for heavy fighters? Right now, they have a turn rate very similar to ships like the Connie and Corsair, but they lack the shields and firepower of those. What's up?
So, this is a question for me, yes. We have been playing with heavy fighter tuning since 3.23, basically the master mode release, and our idea about the heavy fighter role hasn't changed much throughout the time. So basically, what we think an heavy fighter is basically a heavier fighter that has lower maneuverability compared to light fighters, but increased durability and increased firepower. That's as simple as that, right? Currently, we have retuned the entire heavy fighter class that includes ships like the F8, the New Guardian, the other Guardians, and so on and so forth, to fit a better spot. And in our opinion, the spot that now the heavy fighters actually cover, it's quite fine. We do notice that the heavy fighter class is slightly underperforming right now, though, but we think it's related more to the relationship in between cross classes.
Yeah, no shit, because you gave the fucking Mark II Hornet the same amount of firepower as a goddamn heavy fighter. Solo, in a single guy's hands. That was a great balancing choice.
Or stuff like that. So we would like to dive more into the tuning for other classes first before assessing the, the overall heavy fighter tuning, and if that need to be addressed once again. So currently, this is the state of the heavy fighter class in general, but we have some even more updates or like more ideas for the
more updates.
Model,
so the current ratio on where the fighters sit doesn't necessarily need to stay this way. We have the updated flight model coming, and we're using that to basically, I wouldn't say reset, but reevaluate especially the relationships between the fighters. For example, in our perspective at the moment with the with the updated flight model, the heavy fighters, they just feel a little bit too tanky because they're still fighters, right? So we're currently evaluating whether or not we should make them more vulnerable, because if you compare some numbers from, for example, like Gladius versus a F8, we're looking at like a 5 times health. That is like quite a lot for a fighter class. So we're evaluating or reevaluate that once the new flight model or the updated flight model is coming online.
And when you say evaluate, that means you're still making your decisions.
Yeah, sure. Nothing is ever set in stone when it comes to that. Yeah.
You're asking the question whether that 5 times is right. You're not sitting here saying today 5 times is wrong.
No.
We're still looking at that. And Mattia, you make a good point about how you don't just, in order to tune the heavy fighters or any fighter class or any ship class, it's not just the work on that ship. You then have to make a pass on everything else. It's this constant kind of thing.
Oh, there you have it, folks. And CIG likes the way the heavies are. They may need their health nerve to balance them, according to them, but they don't know yet. And what is this, 2025, so 13 years of development, and they still haven't balanced heavy fighters. It's a shocker. They're gonna hide behind the alpha. They're going to hide behind the beta. They're going to hide behind the early access or whatever they do next. But ultimately, they've neglected heavily the Vanguard Sentinel. I don't know a single patch in the past 6 months where it's gotten some actual love and gotten a buff compared to other fighters. The new Guardians have better agility. They have better firepower solo. Better missile loads. The new Mantis hybrid strike fighter thing they're building, what is it, the RSI Meteor? That's gonna be better than a Vanguard Harbinger, absolutely. E-War still isn't in the game. All we have is an EMP and no real usage for the second guy, as those 2 size 2s aren't really gonna do anything. And let's not forget the RSI Scorpius. Double the firepower, double the agility, double the speed. Plus, with the speed blades and the agility blades that they sold at Invictus, if you were lucky enough to get one of them early on, well, guess what? You're outrunning every other fighter in the game. You can run any other fighter down. I don't know. Maybe one day they'll get the balancing right. See you in the verse.